Hello and welcome to episode 76 of Third and Wrong. I'm your co-host, Stephen Bolin, and with me as always is Austin Dallonga and Zachary Foth. Ozzy, we'll start with you. How are things?
Things are swell, Steve. Thanks for asking.
Awesome. No talk of the weather there. Wow. Okay, we'll go to Zach.
I'm changing it up
hat.
here, keeping you on your toes.
I don't like that. Zach, how are things in the hat?
Living the dream as always, Steve. You guys see I'm in a change of scenery. I'm in my mother's office today, so I hope you all enjoy that.
There you go.
I'll say hi to her for me.
All right.
I'm trying to think of a way to segue this, but there's no real way. Earl Thomas was released by the Baltimore Ravens due to conduct detrimental to the team. So you could actually take Ozzy's comment to Zach right there as conduct detrimental to this podcast. But in this case, Earl Thomas punched a teammate. I think it was named Chuck Clark.
Ozzy better watch out here.
Yeah, sounds like that.
Physical. It's a good thing we're not in a studio yet. Okay, so guys, Earl Thomas, as you know, like multiple-time All-Pro safety, Pro Bowler pretty much every year he's been in the league, Super Bowl champion, left the Seahawks after the 2018 season, signed a lucrative deal with the Baltimore Ravens. Just last year was a big part of that defense that saw them as the big reason why they went 14-2. Obviously, Lamar Jackson winning MVP. They were a really well-rounded team, but became something of a meme in the divisional round after Derrick Henry turned him into a lead blocker when Earl Thomas was trying to attempt to make the tackle, got spun around and pushed ahead, which I think Earl ended up making the tackle on that play anyways, but it made for some great GIFs or GIFs, depending on how you pronounce that. There's no one really knows yet. There's a lot of debate. Anyways, then in the offseason, things kind of took a turn for the worst. Right around his birthday, news came out on TMZ that his wife had pulled a gun on him, and after she had caught him in bed with his brother and another woman. So not going to get into that, but obviously
I forgot about that story.
Yeah, right? So it's been a really rough. Go ahead.
You paused when you said brother, and I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
We'll add a little suspense storytelling. That's what we do on this podcast. Anyways, it's been a really hectic offseason as it was coming into this training camp, and then all of a sudden he's been released. The cap hit on Baltimore is pretty intense. I mean, they paid him $22 million last year for one season. I think they owe him $10 million, but they're trying to claim that money back due to the conduct detrimental to the team. This was not just a management decision. It sounded like a lot of the players and the leadership there within the players wanted him gone, which is pretty huge. Earl was seen as something of a leader in Seattle, so that was definitely shocking to me. As far as what's next for the seven-time Pro Bowler, I don't know. The teams, everyone from the Cowboys to the 49ers, have been rumored in being interested in Earl's services. What he's asking for or what his market value is right now remains to be seen, but I want to go to Zach first. Obviously, he's out of your division now, but the Ravens are still a pretty lethal team. But as far as Earl, I mean, you guys, we'll get to this a little later, just lost your safety, Grant Delpit, to a torn Achilles. Would you take a flyer on Earl, or is the off-season or off-field and on-field issues too much to outweigh that?
You alluded to it earlier with him being a leader in Seattle, and then it's just weird. Ever since, like, flipping off Pete Carroll, and then getting out of Seattle, moving on to the Ravens, it seems just crazy. In my opinion, it's getting to the point now where it's like it's the Antonio Brown of the defensive side of things coming out here, and it scares the hell out of me. For me, seeing what's going on in Cleveland, we're trying to get this identity. We're trying to build something, some sort of winner. And, you could make the argument Earl's come from, winning teams 14-2 with Baltimore and then winning the Super Bowl with Seattle, going to the Super Bowl again. And then, they've been winners, so to speak. Just like Brian Hoyer, right, boys? I don't want any of that kind of stuff in the locker room right now. We don't need Earl fighting anyone. We don't need any off-field stuff. And there was a lot going on with the Baltimore Ravens and Earl last year too. It wasn't just this fight with Chuck Clark. It was also, he was always late to meetings. He just wasn't that same teammate. And I'm not sure why. I loved Earl Thomas with the Seattle Seahawks. We watched some good football. Guy moves insanely fast back there, quick reflexes. If we can get that Earl Thomas from Seattle there to Cleveland, that would be amazing. But I just don't think it's there right now. He needs to do some soul searching. I don't think he should take a notebook on what Antonio Brown did. I think he should go revisit a few things and then move into finding the right destination for him. And if that's Cleveland, I'd be happy to have him at that point when he's ready for that. But I think he should take this process kind of slow right now and not take it as, oh, I need to prove everyone wrong. There's clearly something going on between players and stuff. It's not proving them wrong because he comes out and punches this guy in the face. Like, just take your time, find the real root of the problem, build from there, find the correct spot, and then flourish because he has the talent.
Mm-hmm. I was listening to a Seahawks based podcast, and they were alluding to, like, yeah, they were reading that he was late for a meeting one day because he was washing his car. I mean, that's pretty surprising. And Zach, you alluded to it, right? Everything since like the contract dispute with Seattle and flipping off Pete Carroll just seems like, and Earl's always been a little wired and a little weird. Like, he's like always so intense that people are just kind of just like, what? But like, you also had Sherman and Cam Chancellor back there, and they sometimes said Cam Chancellor would get those guys and like whip them into shape as far as like, hey, get your act together, because obviously he's a very intimidating force. Yeah. So, you know, I'm not saying Earl needs a babysitter or anything, but, you know, maybe that leadership also helps too in that camaraderie. Ozzy, you alluded to it on Twitter, and I wanted to get your expanded thoughts on this. You thought maybe New England's culture could help foster a more positive Earl situation. I question this because Seattle and Baltimore, aside from New England, are probably two of the most successful NFL cultures we've seen over the last decade, as far as, you know, the teams that John Harbaugh and Pete Carroll have led. What do you think would be different in New England? And have you rethought that statement at all since you tweeted that? Was that yesterday morning or the day before?
Yeah. Actually, I was kind of hoping that it would come across as a little bit of like me being just kind of like a shit disturber and just kind of poking the bear. I was trying to poke you a little bit, Steve, and hopefully get into another Twitter war with you, but apparently you saved it for the pod. So
yeah,
good on you for keeping the content in for the podcast. But yeah, no, I was kind of just throwing it. I went from serious in the first part, like hoping that it wasn't the maybe situation, and then it was just kind of meant to be like, oh, of course Austin's going with the Patriots being the place that a player can get correct.
Fair enough.
But I mean, where else would you go, right? Like, you need another team that's going to try to keep you structured and disciplined like that. And you're right. Baltimore, after I tweeted it, I kind of acknowledged that Baltimore is a place, like, where else are you going to get a similar culture like that? And where it's kind of set up to be that disciplined, like John Harbaugh is one of those guys, right? And same thing with Seattle. And Seattle, the falling out with the contract is definitely something that I wouldn't attribute for him kind of falling out the same way that he did with Baltimore, of course.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I think that he needs another team like that. And maybe it's just a lapse of judgment or something like that, where, like you said, he was getting his car washed and that's what caused him to be late in one crazy instance. It's like, okay, well, maybe he just needed to get cut from a team to be like, you know what, I want to be in the NFL. I'm going to correct myself and do what it takes to be successful in this league again, because he's shown us that he can be. So I think it's got to be a team like that, where like the Patriots and similar to the Ravens, but there's all these other teams too. And like the Browns are one, the Cowboys are another, the 49ers are another. And the 49ers, I look at who they have on defense, and Robert Saleh, he kind of seems like that guy who he's going to command a lot of respect from his players. And so I could see Earl being a perfect fit there. The Cowboys and the Browns, I'm kind of like, they might do it because of the star that Earl Thomas can be. And it's like, what the product is on the field, who knows? Like, well, we'll kind of see. But because they don't strike me as that team that's got like that discipline, that rigor on from the coaching perspective and the culture perspective yet. Mm-hmm. But that's just me kind of speculating on the teams. But yeah, I still kind of stand with my tweet. But yeah.
No, that's totally fair. And I wanted to razz you about that because I wasn't sure how serious you were on that. But The Cowboys connections there in 2017 after the Seahawks defeated the Cowboys in Dallas. Earl went to the Cowboys locker room and told Jason Garrett, who's no longer there, to come get me this offseason, or I don't, his contract wasn't up then yet though, so probably in the trade, but come get me is what he said. So there's been that connection there, but it looks like they're still vetting him, and it's weird to see a star player like this still on the open market. It's been a really weird offseason for that though. I mean, you still have Logan Ryan and Jadeveon Clowney still sitting in free agency. I mean, how many off seasons could you say you would have seen something like that? I mean, it's definitely unprecedented times. But yeah, as far as a reunion with Seattle, I all but rule that out. I just think there's still too much bad blood there. I think the only way Earl Thomas is ever signing a Seattle contract again is if it's a one-day contract the day he retires, whenever that may be. But and maybe they put his name in the Ring of Honor or something. But I think it's a reunion's not in the works. I could not see that happening. And trust me, no one wants to see Jamal Adams, Quandre Diggs, and Earl Thomas all in a secondary more than me. But I just think the cost outweighs the benefit there.
Do you think they would put him in the Ring of Honor, even the way that he ended his tenure in Seattle?
That's the thing, and this has been a big debate on Seahawks Twitter. I don't want to get too much into it, but it's like out of like the huge run, or I guess I can still call it a huge run, and like the prolific players Seattle had over that time when they went to 2 straight Super Bowls. I mean, Marshawn Lynch, Russell Wilson, Earl, Cam, Richard Sherman, Bobby Wagner, maybe even lobby for KJ Wright. I mean, Doug Baldwin, who retired well before his prime was up. I mean, a lot of these guys were like absolutely key contributors, but you can't just fill up the entire stadium with like 10 players. They're going to have to find some way to honor some of these guys without retiring their number and or putting them in the Ring of Honor. But I mean, I think Marshawn Lynch will eventually get his number retired. I think that's all but inevitable. He was such a face there. But I mean, yeah, like you said, Ozzy, with the bad blood, maybe not. But I mean, we've seen more sour relationships been mended than this. I mean, Brett Favre mended things with the Green Bay Packers, and I think they just had that ceremony for him 2 or 3 years ago when he was at center field there. Aaron Rodgers greeted him. I think Roger Staubach. No. Who am I trying to think of now? One of the legendary Green Bay quarterbacks. I sound like such a fraud right now. Anyways, he was there too. He's very old. But Roger Staubach's Cowboys. So why am I thinking of
Art
him?
is not
Art Starr,
but isn't he not around anymore? I don't know. That's the name that came to my head.
Oh man,
I don't remember. So I'm not gonna.
Our credibility's never been higher, folks. So I think it was Matt Flynn, actually. Yes, it was him. He threw 6 touchdowns on the week
Lions.
17 that one time.
Yeah, against the Lions.
And then the Seahawks signed him. And actually, I just saw on Twitter one more Seahawks thing. 8 years ago today, the Seahawks named Russell Wilson their starting quarterback for week 1.
All right, and that's enough Seattle Seahawks stuff for the day.
That was 8 years ago, man. We aged so fast. Speaking of safeties, guys, Budda Baker has inked a 4-year, $59 million extension with the Arizona Cardinals. And I didn't know this, but he's never had a career interception. So pretty interesting when you consider that. But I mean, that goes to show that a lot of these volume stats definitely don't tell the full story. And I think he has a lot of value in, disguising coverages and making things harder on quarterbacks. And definitely, just because he hasn't caught an interception doesn't mean he hasn't been close or he hasn't disrupted passes. So I think this is a great move for Arizona. A lot of teams missed on him. I mean, he went early in the second round and just seeing the kind of impact he makes, he easily could have went probably on the second half of that first round. I'd say a lot of teams, one more Seattle remark, we missed on him. We took Malik McDowell instead. So a lot of teams were kind of probably kicking themselves that they didn't take a flyer on him. But your guys' thoughts on this? I mean, it's a pretty no-brainer move in my opinion, no?
Yeah,
Zach,
if you don't mind me going. Yeah, what I really like about Budda Baker, he's one of those jack of all trades. First of all, he's 24 years old still, so he's still really young. I saw a really interesting stat by PFF, or what is it called? Pro Football Focus.
Yeah.
He played on the edge 186 times. He played linebacker 460 times. He's played slot corner 882 times, and then safety 708 times. So the guy moves around their defense everywhere. And, really reminds you of like that Micah Hyde player from the Bills. Micah Hyde might be a little bit more prevalent in interceptions. He's had 16 career interceptions. He's one of my favorite defensive players in the league because he is that jack of all trades. So for me, I think it's a great signing. He's young still. It's going to take him into the 2024 season. He's going to be 28. Then they can renegotiate again. The markets are always growing right now. Who knows where that's going to go? But he's worth the money if he can play so many different positions in their defense and be that leader. So I like the signing.
Zach, you pretty much took all the words out of my mouth, but if I can just maybe hit on some of the points even more so, just to fill up some airtime here. If you can sign a 24-year-old safety who's got NFL starting experience and plays all those different positions, why the hell wouldn't you sign him? Interceptions or not, I think that if you have a guy that's playing all over your defense, we just saw how valuable that was in this year's draft with a couple of guys. I keep forgetting his name, who was drafted by the Panthers. No. Who drafted that versatile safety again?
Are you talking about Isaiah Simmons?
Yes.
Oh, the Cardinals.
That'd be Arizona.
Arizona.
Oh, the Cardinals got him too? I forgot about that.
I think they plan on playing him more at linebacker, but that was pre-training camp stuff that I was reading. So I'm not sure. I haven't read any training camp reports actually where they have him lining up, but
holy crap. Yeah. So they got two guys like that on their freaking defense. I totally forgot where Isaiah Simmons went, as you can tell by my reaction.
He was mocked to Detroit so many times that I still think he's a Lion sometimes. Isaiah Simmons, known Detroit Lion, but no, he's in my division.
So yeah, they're just, good luck in that division, Steve. That defense
Thanks,
is looking sexy now. Okay,
yeah, not stressed enough as it is. So
my surprise just ruined any credibility I had. So I'm just gonna end my spiel there. But good signing by the Cards
today.
Yeah. It's been wild. Okay, guys, Zach, let's talk Browns because we were talking some of the injuries you faced in training camp last week, and it looks like that's kind of happened again. We alluded to it with Grant Delpit tearing his Achilles, your rookie safety. Yeah. To supplement that linebacking core, you signed former Super Bowl 48 MVP for the Seattle Seahawks. Not done talking about him yet. I lied. Malcolm Smith, who's jumped with a couple different teams now. We've seen him play with the Oakland Raiders, who are now the Las Vegas Raiders, and the San Francisco 49ers. And now he's there to supply some depth in Cleveland. What are your thoughts on that signing, and what's going to happen with that safety position now?
Yeah, so I'll start with Malcolm Smith. Man, you must have been happy to hear, first of all, Malcolm Smith's back in the league and with the Cleveland Browns.
Yes, sir.
No, so our linebacking core, our average age right now is 24 years old. The oldest one being 27 years old, and that being BJ Goodson, who was a backup for the Packers for 3 or 4 years. I think he came from New York before that. Anyways, we don't have much experience is what I'm getting at. I don't think Malcolm Smith has a ton in the tank right now, but I also don't think that's the reason we brought him in was to be this high producing linebacker. Since his injury in, I think it was San Fran in 2017, before that he was with Oakland for 2 years. He had 2 very productive years with Oakland, actually. Went to San Fran, got hurt, and then his 2 seasons after that were very non-productive, I'd say. So now hopefully being healthy, being able to be a leader of a team, he can come in and kind of help grow the linebacking core that is so young in Cleveland. I like it for that leadership role, and I hope he can play to that level before his injury is my hope. That would be best case scenario. There's a lot of worst case scenarios that usually come in Cleveland. So I'm not going to put it onto those ones right now. We're going to think a little bit more optimistically with that one. I like the signing. We needed the depth, first of all, and we also needed experience. And he actually mirrors a lot of what Mac Wilson was, in the sense that, did you guys know that he ran a 4.44 at the draft, Malcolm Smith did? He's a quick guy.
Oh yeah.
And Mac was good in coverage. And I think Malcolm Smith is known for some of his coverage skills.
Pick six.
The reason why he won MVP.
Right. Yeah. So I'm excited about that. I think we looked at him as a more experienced, maybe Mac Wilson, with So I like the signing there. Moving on to Grant Delpit. What a crappy story, guys. Like in training camp, Achilles tear, like just torn Achilles. Like it hurts your soul. He was going to be an integral part to our team, even if it was rotational. You don't draft a guy second round to not come in and make some kind of impact. It really hurts our secondary depth, our safety depth, because we were struggling there the year prior. That actually leaves Sheldrick Redwine and Elijah Benton, who is an undrafted free agent, under
What about white wine?
What? Yeah.
Come
we
on.
cut him a few days ago. So
damn.
And at strong safety, we have Carl Joseph, Andrew Sadejo, and Hassel. Here I have the name on here. JT Hassel and Javonte Moffat, which are both undrafted free agents as well. So that being said, our depth is hurting. Hence the Earl Thomas talks coming in there. But Sheldrick Redwine coming in last year, he was actually not horrible when he did get playing time. He was in the middle of the pack for PFF. And that being said, I think if we get him in there, with the experience he has, and hopefully he can step up to the plate and play in that safety role. But if we go and sign somebody else, it would be nice to fill that depth and breed more competition there. It just sucks to see Delpit out. Hopefully we can a quick recovery to him and then be back playing football as soon as possible. But it's going to be hard on the Browns because I think that young talent was going to be a big part of our rotation.
Yeah, definitely tough. Sorry. Go ahead, Ozzy.
Well, one thing you said, Zach, like even though you're talking about linebackers, was it the whole team? Like your average age was like 24, 20.
Sorry, that was we're a very young team, but for linebackers.
Yeah, linebackers, yeah. So even though you're talking about them, the secondary is really young too with Denzel Ward and Greedy Williams. And then it was going to be Grant Delpit. You're going to have a lot of young guys starting in that secondary. So even though Grant Delpit's going to have an injury-plagued first year, it's going to be to no detriment in the long term for you guys as long as he comes back healthy because of the age of your guys' roster. I really like how the Browns have built their team so far on defense. They've done so well. You got Myles Garrett leading the charge up front, and then Mac Wilson, once he comes back, he's going to be out some time. I don't know if there's a timeline for his return, and then you got, like I mentioned, Denzel Ward and Greedy Williams in the back end. So really like that team, but yeah, that's those two hits, Mac Wilson and Grant Delpit. It's going to be interesting. Malcolm Smith comes in and replaces Mac Wilson until he gets healed up. And then who's going to come in and replace Grant Delpit? And that's where the Earl Thomas equation comes in. What happens there? Also, Eric Berry, I think, is still a free agent. He wanted to play last year but never got signed too. That's another name that I would throw out there just for kicks. But you mentioned a lot of young guys there too. So I don't know if the Browns are content with just seeing what they have. Andrew Sendejo, having him, I really liked him. And
I love that signing.
Yeah, that was fantastic, especially for a team that, like, I thought signing Andrew Sendejo and then I thought you guys were fine then, but then you go and double down and get Grant Delpit as well. So long term, I think you guys are really well, but yeah, like in the short term, how can you put the Band-Aid on that? And that's what we'll find out in the short term here.
Yeah, man.
Off topic, but man, this is the most I've liked a Browns team just from like who you have in your coaching staff and like Baker entering his third year. Like this is the most I've liked a Browns team, Zach, since I've pretty much been a fan of football because we have the same like fan arc of when we got into the game. But like this is the most I've liked a Browns team ever. I mean, this has to be the year you guys finally put up like a 10-6 record and win. Like, no, like I know we've had other conversations before where like you're like maybe this is the year, and it was like Brian Hoyer and who was that bald defensive coordinator you had as your head coach for a while? Mike Pettin.
Yeah.
No, I think he's the defensive coordinator for Green Bay now, but like I thought that might have been it. But like I like this team more than even that team, and it's just like I know it's like not really congruent to the conversation we were having in regards to the injuries, but like this is the most I've liked the Browns. I mean, and you guys went back to your cool uniforms, which I know you like the other ones, but I mean, this has to be the year it comes together, no?
Man, I'm sitting here for it. I've been
you're waiting for it.
More than a decade for that now. So I mean, like, let's get going. I'm right with you, Steve. There's a different energy. Baker brings that, being the first overall pick in a draft for a quarterback. I think that's a huge part of it. I 100% agree. We have veterans that are exciting. Odell Beckham. I'm talking offense right now. Defense, you really like him now because we have an ex-Seahawk on there. Hopefully he can rejuvenate his career. I agree, man. But it's like one of those things. It's like, as a Browns fan, it's like, this has to be it, man. Like, we have to have some sort of success after everything that we've been through and what's going on here. So thank you for the enthusiasm.
No problem, man. I was going to say, even last year, I hope no one goes and does any detective work on what I was saying last year at this time about the Browns, but like, I loved your team, but I was cautiously optimistic about Freddie Kitchens. And I think deep down in my heart, I was just kind of like, it seemed really risky giving him the keys, but Stefanski just seems like so much more to have his stuff together. And he's been a part of some successful teams that have made some playoff runs. So I have more faith in him than I probably than I did have of Freddie Kitchens this time at last year. So
to be real with you, Steve, Stefanski, I always watch, obviously, my favorite team. I watch a lot of interviews and stuff with him, and I couldn't have said it better myself, with like Stefanski being a guy who seems to have his shit together, more or less. And, you know, he ran a top 10 offense last year in Minnesota. He runs, you know, you can make comparisons with Baker and like Kirk Cousins, say, in some ways, size and such, maybe a little different with how they play. But like, I think there's a lot to be excited for with Stefanski. I think he's really a good guy and like really wants to be structured and attack it. Freddie Kitchens was kind of more off the cuff, you know, like, oh, I like these guys. It's all about relationships, but we're not going to have structure. So, oh, good. Yeah. So that's 6 and 10 for you. So Stefanski's bringing that.
We've had our Seattle Seahawks segment, and now this is our Browns one. I was just going to add to that, Zach. I think Stefanski got his guy and Baker Mayfield. He just kind of seems like what Stefanski would have wanted out of Kirk Cousins, a guy that isn't afraid to sling the ball a little bit more and whatnot. So I think that it just seems like a nice pairing because Baker's got that moxie to him, and he's not afraid to whip the ball downfield. Kirk wasn't either. Sometimes, like, he was fine, but he was flashes. It was more of like a run after the catch stat line for Kirk Cousins. You give the ball to Stephon Diggs or Adam Thielen, and then just let your yards rack up. Baker's ready to throw that ball downfield, and I think Stefanski, it's going to be fun to watch nonetheless, and still got the 2 tight ends set for him too. So it'll be really interesting to see how they mesh.
Man, you literally read it, like you sounded exactly like this article I was reading a little while back, and I love it, and it pumped me up that you're talking about it because that's exactly like Kirk Cousins last year. He had more attempts that were a little deeper, and he played better, but he would never like go over that edge of like taking those chances. And Baker's like drops back and he's like, OBJ, like hits it like good and deep and like gets a touchdown, baby.
Kirk's weird, man. Like, he has like, there's the you like that Kirk, but like that comes out twice a year, and then the rest of the year it's kind of just like he's just like doesn't want to fully like just commit to it. It's just kind of you know, it's just not fully you know, he's not walking up to the cute girl at the bar. He's just kind of he's swiping on Tinder while he's sitting in the lounge or something. You know what's whereas Baker just shoots a shot, doesn't care.
Steve, you're making me cringe because I've died on the Kirk Cousins hill, and you're so right. Like, you like that Kirk comes out twice a year, but I mean, I still die on that hill nonetheless. He's still got something there, at least even if it's only.
Oh yeah, there's worse quarterbacks to have than Kirk, but I mean, at the same time, if I'm Minnesota, I'm not happy to be paying Kirk all that money either.
It's kind of like paying somebody to like help you watch paint dry. Like, that's kind of what.
He's a good friend to have there, and
really, it's nothing special. So,
well,
anyways, we can move on.
And segue
to COVID.
Speaking of paint,
0 players, fellas, have tested positive for COVID after the NFL conducted over 23,000 tests. So, some good news for everyone out there. obviously we're all very cautiously optimistic of how this no bubble format would work. We've seen the MLB have their fair share of problems with it, but so far so good. Now, obviously these guys haven't traveled yet. They haven't been traveling city to city, but they have been moving in their city. I know Seattle's had 2 practices now at CenturyLink Field for some mock games because there's no preseason, and then they're going back to their practice facilities. So obviously taking buses, and you're in a different stadium, but they seem to be taking all the proper precautions, and all these players, including ones that might get cut, might not be on a roster, looking like they're doing everything in their power, with the exception of that one Seahawks player who we cut that tried to sneak his girl into the team facility. But other than that, the 23,000 other players are taking this very seriously. So you love to see it. Fellas, some CFL news. Former Calgary Stampeder linebacker Nate Holley is signed with the Miami Dolphins. Speculated maybe he would go to the Cleveland after that injury to Mac Wilson, but Zach, you mentioned you already have a pretty young linebacking core as it is. Now with the CFL and, there not being a season this year, a lot of the CFLPA and the CFL are allowing players to opt out of their contracts and to pursue NFL deals. So a couple different names: McLeod Bethel Thompson, if you can believe that, Zach, your favorite.
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah, he opted out. Actually, that's not true. Matt Nichols, if you're watching this, you're Zach's favorite. Dakota Shepley, guard for the Saskatchewan Roughriders, he's opted out. My screen's not scrolling down. No, there we go. Got to use my hand. Wynton Mcmanus, linebacker for the Calgary Stampeders. Richie Leone, punter for the Ottawa Redblacks. Now, what happens, guys, is these guys get to opt out and pursue an NFL opportunity. When they come back in 2021, granted, hopefully there's a 2021 CFL season, they would still be their rights would still be with that team if they had a contract that expires in 2021. If they had a contract that was expiring after, or if they're like a free agent already, I believe they're not property of any team coming back. And then the same thing for 2022, they still have to come back to that team. So Ricky Collins Jr., we had on for an interview a couple months ago. Before his career took him to the CFL, he had some trials at the Green Bay Packers, was catching passes from Aaron Rodgers. He's opted out and a chance to pursue a NFL deal. So we're wishing him the best of luck. Lots of other names here too. John Ryan, punter for the Saskatchewan Roughriders, obviously already played in the NFL for the Seattle Seahawks for many years. And Brett Lautner with the Saskatchewan Roughriders, kicker as well, has been posting a lot of social media content on him kicking 50-yard field goals, hoping to get a chance in the NFL. It sucks because a lot of these NFL camps seem to be at capacity as far as players, but obviously we're seeing with the Browns and other teams, there's injuries happening. So wishing them the best to make an NFL squad. And if it doesn't work out, we hope to see him back in the CFL and tearing it up.
Well, on that one too, you'd think like, I don't know if you guys remember this, but like a year or two ago when Bo Levi was like, I'm ready for the NFL. It's like, here's your chance. Like, I don't know. Because the contract was like, because he signed such a big contract. And
like $750,000.
Right?
Yeah.
But like if he got a contract in the NFL, it would probably cover what he lost, but that's if he gets the contract.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. I think it adds like good for these guys to like, if I was sitting around for a year and all that and like, you want to go get paid. I wouldn't for all purposes, go make your money, man. That's my belief on it too. As much as I'm a CFL guy and all that, it's like these guys got to get paid too and have a job. Right. So.
Yeah, I remember Bo came close to signing with either Minnesota or Denver, which would have been really
Minnesota.
Cool. Yeah,
I rememr that.
He had visits with like 8 different teams though as well. But I think Minnesota was the closest. But he kind of probably just looked at that situation and thought, well, our buddy Kirk Cousins is cemented in that spot as his favorite. So, fellas, let's talk some NFL fantasy. 'Tis the season to be having your draft. Zach's put together a little league here where we're doing our PPR Dynasty League for the first time. So that'll be a lot of fun. We're in the middle of our draft for that. The league I've been putting on now since 2013. We're going to have our draft August 31st. So we're looking forward to that. And whether you guys play PPR or regular fantasy, and doesn't matter what app you use, we wanted to each take one player we're really high on, like a sleeper pick, and one player that everyone's kind of talking about picking that maybe you should stay away from, just based on our fantasy expertise, because, you'll just have to take our word for it. So, Zach, let's go to you first. Who's one player you're really high on right now?
So I am really high on Anthony Miller, third-year wide receiver with Chicago. He was a second-round pick. Now, if you're looking at a PPR league, which is what we're playing in the Dynasty League, we've seen increase in targets. So 2018 was a good year for him, but maybe not in a PPR league because he only had 54 targets, but he had 423 yards, 7 touchdowns. That's when Trubisky had that really good year with, I think that was Matt Nagy's first year there.
2018.
Yeah, he threw 2018. Yeah. So did I say 19? He like threw 24 touchdowns, 13 picks or whatever it was.
Yeah. They went 12-4. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And then the year after that, his touchdowns fell on more targets though. He had 85 targets, 656 yards, and only 2 touchdowns. Now for me, a wide receiver coming out with a second round pick on them, I see this guy who's going way later in like the 10th and 11th round as a guy who it's his third year now. I usually give guys 3 years at like a wide receiver tight end position to really prove themselves. That breakout year is that third year kind of. So I drafted him in like the 12th round in our league or 11th round, just hoping that 2020 is his breakout year. I'm not putting him on my starting lineup right away. He's on my bench, taking up one of my 5 bench positions, but I'm really high on this guy. The guy shows a lot of talent and red zone moxie. But we need consistent play from the quarterback, which I love the Nick Foles. You guys know I love Nick Foles, but not for the sense of him being like the starting quarterback there for consistency. I think the competition that it breeds for either of the guys will pursue them to be better. So, or push them to be better, which is what I'm hoping happens. The more consistent there, I think Miller could have a breakout year there. So that's who I'm high on right now.
Awesome. I love it. Ozzy, let's go to you next. Who's a fantasy football player you are high on that no one's really paying attention to right now?
Well, I was worried that this one might be one that people are paying attention to, but I'm going to say it anyways.
Let's do it.
CeeDee Lamb for the wide receiver for the Dallas Cowboys. I thought as soon as the Cowboys selected him, I think it was 17th overall, whenever they drafted him in the first round, it was a perfect fit. It was the missing piece for this offense. You're going to have a 3-headed monster at receiver with Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, and CeeDee Lamb now. And CeeDee Lamb's going to be able to take the top off the defense. And you're going to have guys double covering Amari Cooper. Well, what's that going to do for CeeDee Lamb? It's going to open him up. And he's a big body, 6'2", and he's going to be able to go up and get the football from Andy Dalton, of course, because he's going to win the starting job by week 4 or 5. So, I think that he's going to be a touchdown machine this year. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if he puts up 8 to 10 touchdowns, just because I think that the Dallas Cowboys offense is so stacked right now that you're going to have Zeke to worry about if you're the defense, Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, and CeeDee Lamb. You can't cover all those guys. You can't double cover all of those guys. That's going to free up one of them. And I think that with Mike McCarthy calling the shots as head coach, I really like this recipe. And yeah, the Cowboys are legit.
I like it. I think that's valid, Ozzy. Zach, yours was too, but I know Ozzy was worried his was maybe too mainstream. But I could see people shying away because they're maybe thinking like, who's going to get all these targets with a lot of talent there? But that might be the reason why he falls. And if you take him and all of a sudden Dak or Andy Dalton develop a rapport with him, that could be the go-to. Amari Cooper, like I'm not doubting his talent, but a 5-year, $100 million deal, I'm really worried he might disappear, man. I don't know. Like just those couple of years in Oakland worried me a little bit, but I'm not denying his talent. I believe he's probably a top 10 receiver. So, I think there's talent there. And obviously Jason Witten's not there. Their tight end. Oh God, what's his name? Brett. I just drafted him. Actually, I should know this. Oh, brother. Oh, Blake Jarwin. That's what it was. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, he might be able to produce a little bit, but I like CeeDee Lamb. I think that's going to be a great pick. I missed out on him. He actually got taken right before me. So I have another rookie receiver I'm quite high on. And this is my sleeper pick is Justin Jefferson. And when I was doing my pre-draft rankings for wide receivers, I actually had Jefferson at number 3. Yeah, number 3. I had him ahead of, I believe, not Judy, and not Lamb, but I had him ahead of Ruggs. And with Jefferson, he's not going to be as fast as Diggs was in that offense for the Minnesota Vikings, but he's a very versatile route runner, and you probably start him off in the slot back position or in the slot backs CFL, but in the slot position. And I think they're going to find some creative ways to get him open. And I think he's kind of what Kirk needs, because he's not going to be the burner that's running seam routes and you have to get Kirk to throw that deep ball. But I think you can get him running some different intermediate creative routes there and getting him open, lots of play action if the Vikings stick to that in Stefan Diggs' absence. I think Jefferson's going to be a major target there. Obviously, they have Adam Thielen, a lot of teams are going to have their eye on, but they might shift him outside. And as Jefferson develops, he can get more versatile and you move him outside as well, because he definitely has the size for it. So he wasn't one of the big three that were taken for receivers, as far as Judy and Ruggs got a lot of airtime as well. But I think Jefferson could be that sneaky pick you get in the late round. And, maybe you don't start him the first couple of weeks, but as him and Kirk continue to develop, he might be a starter by mid-season that you can count on. So, yeah. Zach got him in the one league. Yeah. Woo! Missed out on him too. So what do I know? I can't get these guys at the proper round. So
Steve's misvaluing.
Yeah, exactly. Ozzy, let's go back to you for one that people are overrating and a fantasy player that you should probably just steer clear of, because if you take them, you're going to be losing some money, losing some bragging rights, however you play.
Man, I'm so torn on who to pick here. So I guess I'll just go out on a limb here. I don't know if this is somebody that people are really jumping the gun to take, but Todd Gurley, it's kind of weird to not want to pick him, because he was like a guy that would be a top 3 pick most years. And then maybe not last year. I forget what the standing was with his knee at the time, but there's that classic thing that he's good to go and everything like that on a new team. He's going to be gung-ho. I'm not buying the Todd Gurley. If there is any hype, I'm not buying it. And even if there's not, I'm not even thinking of taking the guy, because he just disappeared for games last year. He was not the same guy, and he did really well behind a really good LA Rams offensive line 2 years ago. And last year we saw what happened as the Rams line aged, that it's just is he that good? I don't know. That offensive line help really is beneficial to any running back, and we saw it with Todd Gurley, in my opinion. And I don't think the Falcons line is that great.
It is good.
It might be good.
Satisfactory.
Yeah, it might be average, and with some potential in there. They're young, but I just don't buy it. Yes, it's a nice story. He's back in Atlanta or whatever, but I'm cautiously optimistic with Todd Gurley, to the point where I'd just say, just wash your hands of him this year and just forget about him. Just let him go on somebody else.
Now, Zach picked him up in the Dynasty League.
That's why you're looking like that.
Yeah. In the 5th round, though, mind all of our listeners, I didn't take him in the first. It was a good value pick at the point of the draft I was in. I needed an RB2, and with his upside, it was a great risk-reward pick. Okay, I didn't pick him. Yeah, 5th round was good. That was a good pick.
All fun and games.
Deandre Swift before I go Todd Gurley.
He went early.
Talking Georgia.
Yeah, DeAndre
running backs.
Swift, all the rookie running backs went in the 3rd and 4th round for us. That's why I was eyeing him up there. But at 25, we'll see. I'm optimistic. I believe in. I really like Atlanta's offense this year. Actually, that's why I picked him. I was a little bit more open there, and I like the rookie lineman from last year and now who they drafted this year. I'm very optimistic. That's like me and Leonard. You guys remember Leonard Fournette last year? I was very optimistic. He actually did very well for me last year. He had one big run a game, and it zoomed up the stats for
me. Oh my god! He'd go from 4 points to 13 in a single play. It's like, what?
Right? Yeah,
and then he'd cap out at 14.2 points. You're like, oh, okay, job well done.
Yeah, exactly.
Good RB2. Yeah. No, that's why I was giggling for you.
That's fair. There. Dynasty leagues are strange with running backs because they have such a short shelf life. And I think that's why the rookie ones went so fast, because even at 23 years old or 22 years old, in about 4 or 5 years, you might be cycling those guys out. I mean, you look at Todd Gurley's the perfect example of just a running back who his shelf life was so short. And I mean, he's had some extraneous circumstances with arthritis in his knee, I believe it is.
Yes.
I mean, that doesn't sound like anything any 20-something-year-old should go through, but he is, and it's definitely a high risk, high reward pick. But yeah, I think Ozzy's not wrong. If you take him in the high rounds, I mean, God help you, because there's better options out there. But I mean, take a flyer on him in the late picks, and if he doesn't pan out, you just drop him. But
sorry, Steve, to add on that though quickly, like the reason why I actually took him there was my first 4 picks were all like young, highly talented. Like I got Godwin, Andrews from Baltimore, Sutton from Denver, and who's my running back? Jacobs from Las Vegas. So I had the potential. I was able to then take, if I was to give any like advice to those listening for this in like a dynasty or anything, if you're going for younger players, you got to win now, you got to take some risk to hopefully get to that reward in the end there. If you've went all young, like I think some guys went young all the way through where like they're thinking 3 years down the road, but I think there needs to be some kind of balance there, and that's why
you still want to be competitive in the year. Yeah.
So
the player I'm avoiding, it's actually players. Sorry guys, bending the rules. I'm saying for all our listeners out there, avoid the entire San Francisco 49ers backfield. I know Raheem Mostert just negotiated a new contract, and you're probably thinking, but Steven, like Kyle Shanahan has such a good run game going, right? I mean, all it does is carry Jimmy Garoppolo, and I say, yes, I agree. Jimmy Garoppolo rides the coattails of this fantastic running game. My only issue is that you don't know who's going to be getting the carries. And, you know, now you have Jerick McKinnon coming back, who they signed 2 or 3 years ago and will finally get significant playing time if he's able to stay healthy through camp here. You have Tevin Coleman. You have Raheem Mostert. And even Kyle Juszczyk is like, I think I was rewatching the Week 17 Seattle-San Francisco game, and he was catching a 20-yard pass downfield. I mean, this guy isn't just running through the A-gap trying to block, push defensive linemen and linebackers out of the way. I mean, he's a playmaker out there, and Kyle Shanahan uses him very wisely in a lot of misdirection. I know it's tempting to go for a San Francisco running back, mainly even Mostert, because he was able to – they gave him that little contract boost, and you think he's going to be RB1, but I'm not sure you can really trust a running back there. It looks like it's going to be a running back by committee, similar to the Los Angeles Rams post Gurley. So I don't even know if I want to say take a flyer on one of these guys, because if you start Mostert 1 week and then you have McKinnon going off, you're going to go pick up McKinnon, and then the next week Coleman's going to go off. I think you're just going to get in a pretty frustrating cycle. Just stay away from all of it. You're better off just trying to get something more solidified. A Chris Carson or
Todd Gurley. No, just kidding. I'm just messing with you guys.
But for my stay away, I'm saying stay away from the entire San Francisco 49ers backfield. As much as it aids Jimmy Garoppolo and his mediocrity, we can't trust which running back is going to produce week to week there. So Zach, who's a fantasy football player you're telling our listeners, hey, don't touch that, stay away?
Yeah. This one's interesting because I'm not going to say don't touch it. So I'm going off the rope here a little bit too, but I'm just saying don't take him too high, because a lot of players or a lot of fantasy football owners, they're going to take him because of the news. He was in a big trade this year. He's going to be the number 1 receiver where he's going. It's Stephon Diggs, wide receiver, Buff.
Uh-oh.
Oh, no.
I'm going to pause it.
Oh, sorry for the connection error there, guys. Jumping back in. Stephon Diggs. He was a massive trade this offseason. He'll be the number 1 receiver in Buffalo. But the thing about it is it's a low-volume offense. You have Allen throwing to him, Josh Allen, who, is an inconsistent thrower. He's, in my opinion, he's a really good runner, which opens a lot up for that offense. That's a run-first offense. If you're looking at drafting Stephon Diggs, do not take him in all confidence as your number 1 wide receiver. He's a younger guy. I think he's 26. Great route running, great receiver overall. I really like him. Tristan Lansdale's fake news with Stephon Diggs. Don't listen to his.
Yeah, avoid him at all costs.
He hates,
right? So, which is weird because Stephon's good, but just avoid him. In my opinion, it's the first 2 rounds. You find him later on. He's a great number 2 wide receiver, in my opinion. I think Allen and him could get some kind of connection and chemistry going there, where maybe Allen's a little bit more confident. But Allen is that run first, run heavy, get 9-10 touchdowns. Great for fantasy that way, but Stephon Diggs isn't going to see the same kind of targets going around here. He might see the same, but also inconsistent completions because of the missed throws by Allen. So, if you're drafting, look at Stephon more as that wide receiver 2, perfect flex. If you can get him for like a flex wide receiver in there, that would be a better option for you, but don't go all receiver 1 on him.
Yeah, I almost feel like, sorry, I was going to say Cole Beasley almost seems like he could end up at the end of the season with more receptions than Diggs. Like, am I out of my mind saying that? I just feel like the rapport is already there. And
who knows, right?
Yeah.
With that offense and Allen, who knows what the heck's going to go on there?
And they're going to pound the rock with Singletary as their primary back now.
Or Zach Moss. I heard a lot about Zach Moss as their running back.
Yeah. So it's just really hard to dictate what that offense is going to do. And of course, Allen likes to run, and running quarterbacks will take away targets from your primary wide receivers. Right. Ozzy, you were saying something.
Well, I was going to say something similar, just because I think that Stephon Diggs, he's going to be that guy that takes away the pressure off of the run game by taking the safety out of the play and double teaming Stephon Diggs. And that opens up other guys like Cole Beasley or the running game, as I mentioned. So I like that selection, Zach, actually, because like as a guy to be cautious on, and to kind of hold off, just because, like, for the reasons that we've already discussed, it's too big of a gamble to place your wide receiver 1 as Stephon Diggs. It's too scary. There's nothing worse than you relying on your wide receiver 1 to put up a touchdown a game, and Stephon Diggs putting up 3.2 points, because that's just the offense.
Oh, God, I could see that happening a couple times.
Yeah.
God help you if Diggs is your wide receiver 1. Like, you better have Christian McCaffrey and, like, Ezekiel Elliott as your 2 running backs somehow if you ended up with Stephon Diggs as your primary receiver, and your quarterback better be Patrick Mahomes. Like, if you go into your season and it's like, my receiving core is Stephon Diggs and, I don't know,
Denzel
Mims, like, there was an error made, and you should have listened to this episode beforehand. But hopefully you're only in the process of having your draft, or your draft is in a week and a little bit as you're listening to this episode. So, I'm selling on Stephon Diggs. I think if you have him, you might be able to trade him on name alone to someone who might be not as fantasy savvy as you. But I'm not advocating for any trade imbalance here. But yeah, but hey, you never know. Guys, I think that about wraps up episode 76. We're really excited. Next week, we're going to have a returning guest. We don't get to do that too often. So we're hoping Connor McGough, if all goes well, is going to be coming back and joining us. We're going to talk his thoughts on the CFL shutdown, what he plans on getting up to. We're talking to a lot of these guys going and getting opportunities in the NFL. That's obviously not a reality for every CFL player. So I'm really interested in hearing what him and his teammates are going to get up to, his level of hope for the 2021 season, and if maybe he can teach me how to rush the passer, maybe get in some shape, maybe I can join a men's league or something like that. But no, in all seriousness, if scheduling goes well, we're going to have Connor McGough back on next week, so you're not going to want to miss that, and we're really excited for that. And then obviously the week after that, we're going to have an NFL preview show, give our final predictions on potential Super Bowl winners, MVPs, and so forth. So a couple of exciting weeks coming up here, both CFL and NFL related. You can find me on Twitter at SteveBolin22. You can find me on Instagram at SteveBolin_. Aussie, where can the fine folks find you?
You can find me on Twitter, fine folks, at AustinPaul_ and Instagram at AustinPaul_. That's Austin with a Y, not an I.
Zach, where can people find you living the dream?
Oh, thank you. I didn't even have to say it. You can find me at Zach Foth on Twitter and on Instagram at ZachFoth_. but not at.
Yeah.
You got me.
Yeah, you don't have to type in the at anymore. I think you just type it in, and
right.
It does all that. Obviously, check out all our socials, guys, at the Amateur Agency. We're trying to put out more content as it comes out. By the end of the month or early September, we're going to have our complete comprehensive NFL predictions up. We alluded to them in all our episodes in June and July with our regular season predictions. Well, now you're going to have a nice visual to see kind of what we're all thinking regular season wise. And then obviously we're not going to spoil our Super Bowl picks, and our playoff predictions, but those will come out shortly thereafter that episode is released. Thank you for listening. And until next week, Godspeed.
See you.